Good evening.
Good evening, all. Just so you know, Miss Oliver let me know she will not be able to attend, but she will be watching the video and reviewing the slide decks later.
Thank you.
So I have sent a few messages to both Ms. Brody, who is on this committee, and Yvette Bello. I know Yvette I talked to earlier, and she said she would be attending, so I'm sure she'll hop on soon. And like I said, Ms. Kim will not be able to attend. So it's 4:31. Ms. Francoise, whenever you would like to begin, or if you'd like to give another minute.
Okay, I'll give them like 1 more minute. Okay, I guess we can get started. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the Teaching and Learning Committee meeting. My name is Francoise Darostel Ledger, and I am the chair of this committee, and I'm a member of the Hartford Board of Education, and I would like everyone to pretty much introduce themselves, everyone who is on this meeting.
Would you like to start with someone or just, I could just start.
Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Yvette Bello. I'm with the Board of Education. Great to be here. I could pass it to Erin.
Good evening. My name is Erin Doyle. I am the district coach for MTSS. I will pass it on to Dr. Negron.
Thank you, Erin. Good afternoon, everybody. Dr. Negron, Chief of Academics, and I'm going to pass it to Suzanne. While Suzanne looks to unmute, I'm going to pass it over to Tiffany.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiffany Alvarez-Smith. I'm the partnership manager for the work that the district is doing with Achievement Network, ANET. Thank you for inviting me and us today. And please pardon my voice. I am battling a terrible cold. It's not COVID though, thankfully. But thank you for having me.
Well, I'll jump in. I'm Christina Santiago. I am the board liaison, and I will pass it over to Shannon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Shannon Marimon, Executive Director with Ready CT. We're a partner organization with Hartford Public Schools supporting the career pathways in 4 of the high schools in the district. So very grateful to be here this afternoon. I will pass it to Dr. Daniels.
Hi, everyone. How are you? I'm Dr. Daniels. I'm outside enjoying a coffee, so happy to be here. And I'm going to pass it to Jen Hoffman.
Thanks, Dr. Daniels. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Hoffman, Senior Executive Director for Special Education and Pupil Services for the district. I think Suzanne is off mute, so I'll pass it to her.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Palmieri, and I'm the Assistant Director of Educational Initiatives and Innovation. And I am happy to be here with everyone this evening, and I'm going to pass it over to Erin Doyle, but I think I didn't have my sound on before, so I don't know if she went already.
I did go already. Sorry, Suzanne. I will pass it on to Chief Avila.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Yvette Avila. I am Chief of Schools. And I will pass it to Amy.
Hi, everybody. Amy Barrett. I'm the ESS Program Director. Duncan.
Thanks, Amy. I'm Duncan Young. I'm the CEO of Effective School Solutions. We partner with the district to provide mental health supports in schools. And I'll pass it to my colleague, Mike Roseman.
Hi, Mike Roseman. I'm Vice President of District Partnerships with ESS, and I will pass it to Sam.
Thanks. Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. Sam Purdy, the Deputy Director for Engagement at the Connecticut Rise Network. It was good to see some of you this afternoon at the wonderful event at Weaver. We have been partnering with Hartford Public Schools since 2016, and in this current partnership in our 3rd year. Glad to be with all of you. I'll pass it to Brooke.
Good evening, everyone. Brooke Lafreniere. I am the proud principal of Buckley High School, and I apologize, I am driving, which is why I don't have my video on. I will pass it to Philip.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Philip Reger. I am the proud father of Austin and Audrey Reger, who attend Noah Webster. And I am also have the privilege of serving as the board chair. And I will pass it to whoever who has not spoken. All right.
I believe that's everyone. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for all of those introductions. And we are going to go into our subject, which is, I'm sorry, anyone just lost it. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 moment. I had it and it went away.
If it helps, I'm screen sharing the agenda if you'd like to.
That would be, actually, I have it now. Thank you so much. Contract continuation approval, effective, oh Lordy.
The request is to be effective July 1st.
Yes, ma'am. So, I'm sorry, contract continuation approval achievement network, ANET. And who will be presenting?
So actually, oh, sorry.
Thank you, Christina. If I may, I think we would like to, if it's okay, we'd like to go in the order in which Christina has projected on the screen. So again, I am Dr. Negron. I'm the proud Chief Academic Officer. Today, I am joined by members of my team, as well as the amazing partners that we have been working with. And this evening, what we would like to do is present on the work that we have been doing, accomplishments thus far, and then present or request for the contract continuation, speak a little bit about the scope of work. And I have the partners here with us today in the event that there are some questions that the Teaching and Learning Committee would like to pose directly to them. So if it's okay with you, Chairwoman, I am ready to begin with RISE, if that's okay.
May have lost their board member. They're selected.
Chief Negron, I am just stepping in here. I would recommend you just continue forward.
Okay, thank you. Christina, can you move us to the slide deck that has been prepared to facilitate the presentation?
Yes.
So as Christina is getting ready, I would like to begin the presentation with the RISE Network. And today I am joined by the folks in my office who help us lead this work, which is Dr. Fallon Daniels, as well as Suzanne Palmieri. And I am also joined by our partner from the RISE Network, Sam Purdy, who you heard him introduce himself earlier. So next slide, Christina. So the objectives here is for you to understand the scope of services currently being offered by the RISE Network. I am also going to be moving along with the Ready CT as well. And the reason for that is because both of these partnerships are the ones who are helping us continue to move forward the work as it relates to high school and post-secondary transition supports. So we're going to be reviewing, again, the work that has happened so far, and then we will review the scope, the proposed scope of work for 22-23 academic year. Before I do that, I want to make sure that I ground us on our strategic operating plan. So Christina, if we go to the next slide. Again, just want to highlight, we are working in priority 1, which is high quality teaching and learning, and looking at the strategy 1.3. Again, that speaks about increasing high school and post-secondary transition supports. Next slide, Christina. So as a refresher, to make sure that everybody fully understands, again, these two partnerships support our work around high school redesign. And to remind you, there are 3 key components of the redesign. And just this afternoon, we had an amazing showcase at Weaver High School, just highlighting the great work that has happened. So that entails Freshman Academy, career pathways, and personalized pathways. So today I want to start with RISE Network. And the RISE Network is the partner who supports us around the Freshman Academy work. Next slide, Christina. In regards to the current work, let me just remind everybody that, again, the national research emphasizes the importance of freshman year in setting the foundation for success throughout the rest of high school. And for this reason, we pay close attention to the work of grade 9. And that is why we began this work years back around building strong freshman academies in our comprehensive high schools. The current work, which you see here, is dedicated through weekly collaborative time with data teams the work to analyze on-track graduation rates. And we are happy to report that again, we almost met our target, missed it by like a point, like I think it was a 0.2 that we just missed it. So we have been doing great work hitting those particular targets. But again, the RISE network is intimate in helping us in this work. They support everything that happens in terms of the professional learning communities in our 3 comprehensive high schools through the work that they do through professional learning and working very closely with the leads at the high school level. And I am so glad that today we also have Principal Brooke, who can speak directly about this work because she has been the one leading the work over at Buckley High School. Christina, if you get me to the next slide. Also want to remind the Teaching and Learning Committee of the mission of the Connecticut RISE Network, which you see here, which is to ensure that all students graduate with a plan and the skills and confidence to achieve college and career success. The scope of work is to work again with us in our comprehensive high schools to focus on building the capacity among grade 9 leaders and educators to strengthen the data-informed collaboration. So I want to highlight that today at the showcase, there was a panel where we had a teacher lead and also a student. And I recall the teacher saying, and also the principal, Brooke, who is here with us today, saying how all this work is around the data, right? And having the time to truly dig in and understand where every single 9th grader is at, to continue to work on the strategies and the plan to bring the necessary supports to the students. And I remember the student today saying, oh my God, like I feel like I have a team that listens to me, that is here for me, and that truly believes in us, and that are there to listen because it's all about the relationships. In the next slide, I do want to highlight for you some of the voices. And I am going to let you read that for yourselves. And I'm hoping that again, in this slide, you see presented the statements from educators about the value of this partnership. There is a theme here where collaboration within the Freshman Academy team is highly valued and corresponds directly to educator practice in support of freshman success. In the next slide, I also want to highlight another data point. Once again, I'll let you read that for yourselves. So this is the survey responses of Freshman Academy teachers, counselors, and support staff, which is a total of 44. And again, they represent Buckley, Hartford High, Kinsella, and Weaver. This data was collected in April, and it was also collected in May. In the next slide, we have more information from that particular survey. So I'll give you a minute. So again, these are educators indicating the value that the collaboration gives them in being able to carry out the work to truly support the needs of our freshman students. And I have one more data point that I would like to highlight in the next slide. And another benefit of the partnership are the data tools that the RISE network is able to afford us. That just makes easy access. And I know that today, Sam Purdy shared with the team that now there's going to be a feature that even allows for those reports to be printed, which apparently is something that the teachers have been looking for because they want to carry the data with them everywhere. And that was highlighted today. More importantly, though, I want to show you student outcomes. So one of the key measures to truly see how are we doing towards graduation is to make sure that we're doing everything within our power so that there is a successful freshman year. And we do that by taking a look at on-track rates, which means students passing 6 or more classes. And here you can see time periods dating back to 2021. You have semesters and you have year-end grades. And you have that for the schools that have been involved in this partnership. You have Buckley, Hartford High, Kinsella, Weaver. We are extremely excited about what we are seeing. I think that is also translating into our graduation rates that I mentioned at the start. But again, kudos to Brooke Lafreniere here from Buckley. She's been involved in this work from day one with the rest of the staff at Buckley. And you see that 26 point jump, as well as all the other high schools. So we see growth everywhere.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So this is great. This is a great visual and I super impressive. So 2 questions. One is, out of the 6+ classes, are there like critical, what I would call core classes that are included in this? So for example, I think of like math, science, right, as like the 2, right? So I just want to make sure when we say 6 classes that we're measuring, I don't want to say classes that count the most, but the classes that, right, that this, when I think about the future and where things are going, that's being accounted for. And then part 2 of that question, when I look at Buckley, the plus 26, now granted, right, I mean, they had they had more upside, right, to make change starting at a 49, but are there any kind of best practices that Buckley has done that we could capture that might translate across all of our schools, right? So I would love to see like that 5th column, or sorry, the 5th column, you know, that being plus 26.
Okay, so let me start by answering the first question. And yes, you're absolutely right. We're always looking to make sure that as part of those 6, we're looking at English and we're looking at math, right? Those being key, right, to ensuring that success as part of the 6 that are being successfully passed and defined under on track towards graduation. In regards to the practices and the strategies, there have been a wealth, but I am actually going to be inviting at this point Sam Purdy to chime in, as well as Principal Lafreniere, again, who have been in this work from day one. And because a lot of these practices, when they come together, basically Sam is coming together with all the principals or the leads for the schools, right? So it would be the person that's leading the work, at Buckley, the person leading the work at Weaver, for example, and that's when they work on that PLC. So Sam, why don't I start with you, and then maybe we can tag Brooke, who's on the call.
Sure, those are both really fantastic questions that really get at the heart of what I think the story is on this slide. To the point around Buckley, I am extremely proud of what Brooke and her team have led. I think that 2 points that I would pull out from their work are two that they really have control over, and then I'll say one that they almost don't or have been somewhat beneficiaries of, something that has hampered other schools. But the things squarely within their control, one, are Brooke's data-driven leadership. Brooke is truly devoted to the data, and that's something that we have been, trying to work with the assistant principals, as well as increasing this year the team leads on. And I think there's just something to the culture that she has built that says quantitative data really matters. We are going to build relationships with our students. We are going to talk with and learn from our students and account for their experiences. And at the end of the day, we're going to hold ourselves accountable to the results. And that's something that really just oozes out of her communication, and that I think has trickled down to her team leads, who take on a lot of leadership. The second is the intentionality of the meeting planning. We actually have, I should say more specifically, the freshman seminar course meeting planning. So we actually have done some work to try to translate what they have done in student goal setting on a Monday, Friday cadence. I know follow-up Friday. Why am I forgetting what the M of the alliterative Monday is? Maybe Brooke can chime in.
It's Mentoring Monday.
Mentoring Monday and follow-up Friday. So the idea being, in freshman seminar on Monday, we're going to set goals. You're going to look at your power school. Where are you and where do you want to be with particular classes by Friday? And Friday, we're going to follow up and check in on your progress. That was their own innovation. And it's just been a little piece of that freshman seminar structure that we actually had her and her team present on during one of our PLC structures. So I think there's opportunity to leverage it even more. The only other thing, just to not take too much time, but that I will name, is Brooke has been in this freshman academy leadership position now for a good little while. And I think has, weathered transitions that, in some of the other schools are just at the beginnings of new administrators or new to that role who are doing very strong work, but don't necessarily have the benefit of that longevity or that continuity.
I can certainly hop in here too. I mean, I appreciate Sam's compliments, although I will say, my work with CT Rise has made being data minded incredibly easy because everything is really at our fingertips. But I think the ability to be in the same leadership role for 3 years has really made an impact, and it's been able to we see growth year over year because it's the same faces sitting around the table, and we already know what the expectation is. My team itself, short of one person, hasn't changed in 3 years, which I think also speaks to the value that the team sees in their role within the school community. They want to come back year over year because they feel really invested in the work. And so one of the things that we did this year was be really intentional about training some of the teachers to take on more leadership roles in the, because I see all of my colleagues leaving, I want to make sure that no matter what happens in the midst of transition amongst my team, that they continue to have that solid foundation. So I think that being mindful about the succession planning and really making sure that the team is incredibly deep in the knowledge and skill set to facilitate the conversation, that's certainly been a focus for us, and I think we've benefited from it this year.
Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that's powerful, and Sam and Brooke, I don't think we ever had a chance of connecting, but so I'm very much a data person, actually going to school, probably going to one of the schools best known for data right now. So my assumption is that every decision that we're making is data driven. That's just a given to me. But when I think about some of the, well, I'll just call it the profiles of success, Dr. Negron and I think Chief Avila, is probably being done already. So clearly there's some synergies between what the work that's being done here versus what Dr. Curtis is trying to do with recruitment and so forth. Because one of the threads I heard is, right, longevity and that constant leadership is key. So if we're looking to bring this to scale and more importantly, share best practices, right, there's clearly some themes that tie together with some of the work that other district leaders are doing and so forth. So I just want to make sure that that's happening. I'm sure it is, but I just want to make sure to call that out.
Thank you. I'd like to just take a quick moment just to do a check to see if anyone has any questions, because this is a great deal of information. It's a great presentation, but I just want to take a moment to see if anyone has any questions. And I don't see any hands raised. So,
Madam Chair, if I may, I would like to highlight then the scope of work as it relates to the continuation of the contract.
actually, you can do that in just a moment. I have Board Member Bello has her hand raised.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. Are we looking at, is it too soon to look at? Maybe that's the question. Is it too soon to look at what's working across the board, just to kind of learn from each of the schools and implementation and what's driving these great results?
Dr. Negron?
So Ms. Bello, that is exactly what happens when they come together for those PLCs. The agendas, right, often relay that sharing of practices with the outcomes so that then those can be highlighted for others also to think about adapting those within their own context.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I don't see anyone else, so please continue, Dr. Negron.
So in terms of the scope of work, right, which is this is the work that happens now. So this work would continue. So it's about, right, bringing forth that professional learning community where all the grade 9 leads, often those are the assistant principals, right, that are working with the freshman academy teachers. They have that opportunity to come together in these PLCs on a bi-monthly basis where they are, right, interacting with all the data and what it's telling them to identify then the action planning. Second would be to continue to design and facilitate cross-school grade 9 convenings, and that includes the administrators, the teacher leaders, and then key grade 9 team members, again, to share school-based work and what's going in within their own schools. Next would be the coaching that this partnership brings to the grade 9 assistant principals around leadership, right? And really understanding the components of freshman success and coaching them around that so that they're better equipped to support their teacher leaders and have the oversight of those grade 9 student outcomes. Also promoting, right, the continuation on how we can get better around those grade 9 on-track data meetings so that they're very efficient, targeted, and that we are walking out with very clear next steps, always leveraging the RISE data dashboards. And also maintaining those, what RISE does, they maintain the data dashboards and make sure that they are user-friendly to all of those that interact with them. And there's going to be one added component to the scope of work next year, which is on the next slide. And I want to make sure that we highlight that, right? So we know that we have to continue to pay close attention to what happens to our repeaters. So we want to make sure that in this scope of work, that we are also planning and facilitating a community of practice around grade 9 repeaters, right? So bringing together, inclusive of members from the Department of College and Career Readiness in my office, coming together again with the teachers at the school level, so that we are honing in, right, on, what else do we need to do around the students who were not successful in grade 9? How can we get them back on track? So that is going to be an added piece to the scope of work. I do want to, in the next slide, we do have some of the indicators that we continue to look at as we measure this work, which you saw examples of in the presentation. But I also want to share that in terms of the funding that we are seeking for the contract renewal, to let you know that these are funds that are identified already through the BART grant that we have been successful in acquiring year after year, because we're able to bring very clear successes to the BART Foundation. And they have been amazing in supporting our work. But I did want to name that, again, the contract renewal that we are seeking, and these are done in 6-month increments. So this renewal would be from July through December. And again, at a cost of $104,034.50. Again, funds that are currently allocated through the BART grant. So at this point, I will stop to see if there are any other questions, Madam Chair, that anyone may have related to the RISE network.
Thank you so much, Dr. Negron. I am looking to see if anyone has a hand raised. And I do not see one. I will look in the chat. I don't see anything in the chat either, so there are no questions at this time.
Okay, so if it's okay, I'm going to continue with Ready CT. Again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, this is all connected, right, to our priority around high school and post-secondary support. This particular funding is outlined within our ESSER plan. So funding is allocated for this work, and we're seeking that renewal. Just as a refresher, once again, to give you a little bit of background on Ready CT. And as I mentioned before, we do have Shannon Merriman here with us, who is the executive director for Ready CT. I'm going to give you a minute to read that. We are seeking this continuation of this contract to ensure that we continue with the personalized learning opportunities afforded to our Hartford Public School students through the design, the planning, and the delivery of career pathways that is currently happening at Buckley, Hartford High, Weaver, and in the Pathway Academies. Christina, next slide, please. Again, to ground us on some of the work that we have done as it relates to the career pathways. To create these meaningful pathways, we had to do 3 key things. That was to establish pathway-specific advisory boards, codified curriculum and work-based learning experiences. And we also had to complete extensive 9th grade recruitment, examples of the types of events that are included through the work that we do with Ready CT includes Connecticut Business and Industry Association news annual meetings, pathway signing days, career week, transition week, college fairs, etc. In the next slide, I'm also very proud to report to you that we now have 6 career pathways up and running. You can see them here, 2 at each of the comprehensive high schools. And very proud to let you know that some of those have received the level of distinguished by NAF. In the next slide, I do have some data for you related to the work that has been accomplished so far. So you see here, there is a lot of emphasis on having students go through freshman year, where they get to experience a little bit about the pathways that each of the high school has to offer. And then we hold a signing day, meaning that they get to tell us, hey, what is your interest? Which particular career pathway do you want to go into? And that is what you are seeing here on that second column, right? So you see here the signups for computer science at Buckley. That is our newest career pathway. You see public service at Buckley, allied health and engineering and green tech at Hartford High, and then Weaver with insurance and finance and Pathway Academy. And I don't know what's going on with this with the slide here. I apologize for that. There is a little overlap. I do want to note that also during today's showcase, I was very happy to hear from the panel on the career pathways. For example, Principal Padro Hartford High commented on the impact that Ready CT has had, and a piece of data that she offers. She mentioned, right, for example, engineering and green technology went from 5 female students being in that pathway to now a total of 25 females. And a student actually, female student commenting around what all of those supports meant to her. So I just wanted to acknowledge that piece that was mentioned today during the showcase. In the next slide, we do have more pieces of data for you to look at. So here you can see that over this past year, we engaged in a continual partnership with Ready CT to support students at our 4 high schools. And this slide shows student participation in work-based learning opportunities by school and by grade level. And I just want you to keep in mind that the data that is captured here is constantly updated on a monthly basis. In the next slide, we have more data for you. Here you can see the number of students who participated in work-based learning opportunities that are tied to the pathways. And it is representative of the different kinds of work-based learning that is being offered throughout the year, and that is facilitated by the staff at Ready CT. And again, Shannon Merriman is here with us today. in case there are questions at any point, but I do want to keep going just to show you some wonderful pictures and images in the next slide, where you can see images of students participating in the various career pathways events that have been happening throughout this academic year. And again, I want to take an opportunity not only to thank our partner, ReadyCT, but none of it would be possible without the leadership from Suzanne Palmieri and Dr. Daniels in the Department of College and Career Readiness, into the amazing work happening at each of these schools. So in the next slide, I do want to talk to you about what it is that we're looking to accomplish through the continuation of the contract. So in 2022, 2023, the bulk of the work would be to launch the support of the journalism and media pathway at Weaver High School, including the onboarding of a dedicated career pathway program manager, and the establishment of an industry advisory board to begin the student and the staff engagement with students post-secondary planning. And again, that is the kind of work that happens right now. For example, the engineering and green tech pathway that happens at the other pathways, but we had not had an opportunity to begin that work with the journalism and media, and this scope of work would allow for us to, again, bring in the support of that dedicated career pathway program management, as well as the advisory board. And of course, continue the work that is already happening at the other schools. In terms of the way that we would measure the work, you can see right here. So we would look to take a close look at the percent of students on track for graduation, percent of students engaging in internship experiences or job shadows, and also the percent of students engaged in dual enrollment courses. Other data points that we would look at would be, as you saw today, how many kids are enrolled in the career pathway, always looking at what the students have to say in terms of their own perceptions around career readiness, as well as the perceptions from the teachers, and the employer survey specific to students' internship experiences. And again, all of this work facilitated through ReadyCT. So I think here what I want to do is pause for any questions, again, that the Teaching and Learning Committee might have to either Shannon, who's here with us today, or any other members from our team, whether that be Dr. Daniels or Suzanne Palmieri.
Thank you. I am looking from the chat and I see Chairman Rigger has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Quick question. Curious, what was the process in terms of identifying, I think you said sports and sports journalism, I forget the exact title, but that particular pathway. Just curious what was the process, and does that align with the, I guess, the need of the students and the school and community?
So, Mr. Rigger, you are referencing the journalism and media pathway. So what happened was when we began the high school redesign work, one of the things that we did is we went out to industry and we looked at, and Shannon, help me here because I'm losing the name of the reports that we were looking at to see, right, what were those careers that were more...
Yeah, the labor market report.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we looked at labor market reports for high growth, high demand industries as contextualized by the geographic region. So, and then also in part some feedback from students around their interest and where they what do they get excited about.
And Mr. Rigger, that is how we landed on the 6 pathways. And then since then, right, we have been trying to develop those, right, each year. Some were already in assistance, and it was just a matter of making them even stronger. And in some cases, like rebuilding, right, in the places where we had lost staff. And the fact that, again, with many of these pathways, you have to have teachers, right, that are trained, right, to be able to offer the particular courses that then align to the work of that career. And that is where the advisories become key to the work, because we rely on them to really hear about, what are the skills that the students are going to need to be successful in those careers. And then we start with that in mind. We start like writing curriculum and building those pieces.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I have a question with regards to the journalism and media pathway. Since this is at Weaver, are you incorporating the radio station that is already there? Are students able to take advantage of that? Are teachers bringing the students, incorporating that as well?
So, Madam Chair, in the design of what we're looking at right now, we're looking at all of those pieces, right? Because we do want to take advantage of the fact that, oh my God, we have this amazing building, we have this amazing resource, right? And it's about how can we do it in a way that is completely like intentional and that it rolls out with everything that we want to build to make sure, right, that when kids leave that pathway, that they are ready. And what better way to do that than to access again, that amazing resource that we have. But again, it's going to mean, the curriculum that has to be developed, the teacher who's going to go in there. And again, that is where really Ready CT is going to be helping us along with the advisory to really think about what are all the pieces that we have to consider to make sure that we're doing this the right way.
Thank you. I have one more question. So I talked about I mentioned the radio station. Are you looking at whether it's the newspaper, like the Current, or maybe not necessarily the Current, but developing, starting a newspaper in the building, something like that, having the students, having it be more hands-on and intentional and organic?
So at this point, I am going to pass it on to Dr. Daniels, who has been more intimate in where the team is at right now. But please know, right, that we also, in all of this work, want to be very innovative and look at what is the latest out there as it relates to the field. And that, again, I want to highlight that the advisory becomes key to this work. So Dr. Daniels.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that Principal Webley and I have been working closely also with Ready CT to kind of frame what would this look like. And so far, what we've identified with a few professionals right now in the field is that we're going to start their 9th and 10th grade year to really narrow in on storytelling. And that's a big piece of journalism, ultimately, that they would move into broadcasting, creating podcasts, moving into a newspaper and other opportunities like broadcasting in partnership with like Quinnipiac, because we know that that's a need. And so these folks have been together at the table and we've been talking about what that looks like. And we really also want to emphasize the pieces on technology, because editing is a huge part in utilizing technology and making sure that those students earn stackable credentials. So we've talked about like Adobe and other resources that our students will be trained in to ensure that they're successful. So right now they're currently working with our broadcasting station at the school. They have 2 individuals on site working with the teacher, and we're hoping to expand that so more students have access to it. So at this current time, we have a sequence where it's, again, storytelling and then moving into more of the technical side where students are most interested. So it will cover in greater depth the broadcasting piece, among other things like podcasts.
Thank you so much. I have a question with regards to, I know you did mention Quinnipiac, but also, are you looking at, I did mention the current, but what about local newspapers, smaller newspapers in the area, such as the North End Agent, Hartford Inquirer, newspapers like that, so that you can perhaps incorporate individuals who are businesses that are in the city, in the local area, who would be more than happy to come in and partner.
You're spot on. We've been using a lot of those partners right now to do guest speaking and workshop opportunities with our students. So we've done like local magazines, et cetera, that have come and worked with our students. But ultimately, with the development of the Industry Advisory Board, we're going to see a variety of people in one space creating the course sequence and the curriculum and the activities and the work-based learning experiences for our students. We just started, the reason I mentioned Quinnipiac is because we connected with Quinnipiac and also a member who worked for the Current, actually, who gave us the structure of storytelling to ensure that we were moving in the right direction based on what we had currently happening at the school. So you're absolutely right. We're going to see more hands on board with the support of that program manager.
And I'm gonna ask at this time if we can, if teaching and learning committee, if board members can have not access necessarily, but if we can be, if we can receive information with regards to who you're going to be partnering with, what newspapers or, whether it's radio stations, whether it's universities or colleges in the area, community colleges, for example, you're going to be working with, because that would be helpful for transparency purposes.
Absolutely. I think once that design is all laid out, we'll be very happy to make sure that we're sharing that so that the public understands, right, the richness of all of the partners that will be coming into the work.
Thank you.
So Madam Chair, this particular contract renewal, I want to make sure that I state that it is to cover the entire academic year, 2022-2023, for an amount of $353,000.20. Again, already identified under ESSER as part of our plan that was submitted.
Thank you. Okay, and are you all set with your presentation, Dr. Negron?
I am all set with Ready CT.
Okay, thank you so much. And now we are going to, let me see if Christina, can you please put the agenda back up, if you don't mind? Just one moment. Thank you so much. And now we are going to move on to contract continuation approval, Effective Solutions, ESS.
Okay, so similarly to the other two, during this presentation, I hope to make sure that everybody can understand the scope of the services that are being offered by Effective School Solutions, other known as ESS. We're going to review the current state of student need in Hartford Public Schools, And we're going to discuss student and school outcomes from engagement with ESS and also review the proposed scope of work for 22-23. As I mentioned earlier, I am joined by members of my team that are leading this work. That is Jen Hoffman and Erin Doyle. And I am also joined by our partners at ESS, Duncan Young, and we also have Mike Roseman and Amy Barrett. So these are the three individuals that have been working all year long closely again with Jen Hoffman and Erin Doyle and myself. So why don't we get started? Okay, thank you, Christina. So here is the, want to make sure that we highlight the current model and to show you, right, that as it pertains to the support that we get from Effective School Solutions, they come in at that tier 3, what we call this tier 3 level, right? This is like intensive mental health support that they have been offering all year long to students in 6 of our neighborhood, middle, and comprehensive high school. What that looks like is that we have clinicians that come in and are currently servicing 83 right now, as of now, with 8 more pending students. And they provide a combination of in-school individual therapy, group therapy, family therapy, and sometimes just-in-time support, right? So it's really being able to offer that therapeutic clinical support that honestly right now, right, we are not able to provide. And by having them able to provide that, we don't have to then go out and send students out to be able to get that support. The clinicians provide strategies for that students can leverage when needed. And the goal is to increase, right, the time that they're in class, their academic success, and then improving relationships. Improving relationships between the students, the staff, and the family members. The communication occurs pretty frequently. You can see here weekly between school staff, the clinicians, and the families, right? Families are at the center of this work. And that is done through our reentry plans, safety plans, sometimes community-based clinical support. Through the contract that we have, we also get 10, this year we got 10 educator and parent workshops that ESS was able to provide to our families. Now we're gonna get a little more into, the work. But before we do that, I wanna make sure and remind folks why it was that we chose to partner with ESS last year. So in the next slide. I don't know what's going on today. Everything is moving a little slower. So again, I just wanted to remind folks that we're still in a pandemic. We're coming out of that pandemic, but we know that the mental health needs have just been exacerbated. And we knew that walking into 21-22, and that it was one of the main reasons why we wanted to make sure that we were being proactive. And we reached out to ESS to partner with us in 21-22. We also know, right, that there is a shortage, national shortage going on, particularly for psychologists, right? and for folks that are trained to be able to do this work. We knew that going in. And we also knew that it was going to be imperative that we bring those supports to our students. If we had any hope, right, on reconnecting our kids and re-engaging our kids. So we are very grateful for the partnership that we have had with ESS. And I want to make sure that we take some time to review some of the data that we have been able to look at that speaks about what has been happening through this partnership. So at this point, I am going to bring in, again, the other members of my team who have been a little closer to the work. So this is where I am going to be inviting Jen Hoffman to walk us through this work. And then we also have, again, our partners to chime in and support us with all the presentation. So Jen, I'm tagging you now with the next slide.
Thanks, Dr. Negron. I'm actually going to turn the next few slides over to, I think, Duncan at this point, just to give a high-level overview of the data that we have been able to collect throughout the year in our schools.
Thanks, Jen. And I just want to really kind of give a shout out to Ms. Hoffman, Ms. Doyle, and Dr. Negron for the partnership this year. Obviously, a partnership of this scope takes a tremendous amount of effort on both sides, and just really appreciate everything the district has done to support what we see as important and hopefully very impactful work in the schools that we're operating in. As Dr. Negron mentioned, we're still dealing with a mental health crisis in our country with young people. That was true prior to the pandemic. It was true during the pandemic, and it's especially true now as students continue to really struggle with the trauma that has persisted from the isolation and the other challenges that really kind of existed during the shutdown period. This has been a really challenging year with reintegration, and the data on the left-hand side really highlights this. These are high-risk incidents that we track as part of our clinical work. A high-risk incident could be a severe behavioral issue, a severe incident of emotional distress. And what you really see is that as students got back into school in the early part of the year, September, October, those numbers really spiked. Due to the support that was being provided, students began to stabilize, but this data also indicates that we're not out of the woods yet. We've seen plateauing and even a slight increase in February, March, and April. And that tells us that this trauma that students are perceiving really persists, especially students who are at that tier 3 level that Dr. Negron mentioned previously. So who is a tier 3 student? A tier 3 student, and the students that we're typically servicing in partnership with the district, are students who have difficulty with emotional regulation, difficulty managing anger, including verbal and physical aggression, students who have experienced complex trauma related to grief and loss, students who have an increase in symptoms of anxiety and depression, students who may have incidents of suicidal ideation or severe school avoidance. So generally, tier 3 students are that small percentage of students that are really going to strain the capabilities of what a school is traditionally positioned to do with respect to mental health. And that's true at any time. It's especially true during this time where we're having the provider shortage that Dr. Negron mentioned. So just a little bit more about our team within the district. We actually have a 10-person clinician team distributed across the 6 schools that Dr. Negron mentioned. Amy Barrett, who I'm going to turn the next slide over to, is our full-time project manager. And then we actually have a large team in our home office that is actually going through the electronic health records of students participating in the program, looking for high-risk issues so that we can be proactive in following up with students in real time and getting them escalated to a higher level of care if necessary, and getting them the support that they need. So that's kind of the overall system of delivery that we are providing in partnership with the district. I'll turn it over to Amy Barrett from our team to go to the next slide and talk a little bit about what we've actually done this year and a little bit about the ESS model of delivery. Amy.
Sure. Thank you, everybody. So we offer a wide variety of services and sessions that we do directly in site with our students. Since the beginning of the year through early May, our clinicians have provided over 4,000 sessions to the students who are enrolled in our program Of those sessions, there are big three are individual therapy, group therapy, and family therapy. That's where the big majority of our sessions go, but also is with our tier 3 level of our model also includes our in the moment response to students that was mentioned before from Dr. Negron. If a student is having difficulty in a classroom or a behavioral episode, during the day, our clinicians respond directly in the moment and work with the student to de-escalate and to reset, and then eventually with the goal to re-enter class. So that is our 20% of our sessions are occurring through those PRN sessions during the day. So like I said before, we had about 4,000 sessions since the beginning of school with our 83 students. That's about 50 sessions or interactions with each student up until this point. Okay. Go to the next slide, please. Then this breaks down the number of interactions per student per week. Our tier 3 models benchmark is 3 interactions per week with each student. And you'll see that the number has been higher than that each month. The students are getting additional services based on their level of need throughout the week, depending on what's coming up for them. Okay. Can go to the next. Thank you. And then we'll transition into student outcomes. You'll see on the left the positive impact on discipline this year. 30% or students on our program have experienced a 30% decrease in disciplinary incidents since after the ESS intake, depending on when they were intaked into our program. Then the right is a breakdown per school. Majority have seen a decrease despite students' challenges reacclimating post-pandemic back into the school environment. And you can go to the next.
Yeah, the next few slides go through the impact of ESS services on academic components, grades, discipline, attendance, and then we'll also share some data on direct progress of students therapeutically with respect to some of the things that we measure. So let's start with discipline and attendance. So what this data indicates is that students in ESS programming are 47% more likely to decrease in out-of-school discipline than to increase. So if you look at the percentages on the right-hand side, for students in the program, 31% saw a decrease in their out-of-school suspension data, 58% stayed the same, 21% saw an increase. If we average that out in total, that comes out to that ties off to that approximately 30% decrease overall that Amy mentioned on the previous slide. There's an even stronger story when it comes to attendance. 75% of students in ESS programming maintained or decreased in absences. And again, the data that we're looking at here, we're looking at the number of absences for a student in the marking period prior to when they entered ESS programming. And we're comparing that against the latest marking period that a student was enrolled in programming. So here's 75% of students improved their attendance, 9% had no change, and only 28% had worse attendance when you compare those two data points. Next slide, please. And we've got a positive story on GPA as well. Across the 110 or so districts that we work across, I would share that GPA in general has been a challenged metric this year. I think students have really, across the country, struggled academically as they have worked to reintegrate and become used to the rigors of in-person physical schooling. With that backdrop in mind, though, we've got some really good data to report here. So let's actually take a look at the bottom graph, which is marking period 3 GPA for students versus baseline. Here we had 40% of students in this sample improving their GPA, 27% with no change, and about a third kind of decreasing. But overall, this again equates out and nets out to a positive average increase in GPA for the measurement period versus the baseline period. And students were 21% more likely to increase their GPA compared to their baseline than to decrease. And we will transition over to therapeutic data next, and I'll turn it over to Amy to talk us through a couple of these metrics.
Sure, thanks. So every time we meet with our students, we gather 2 data points. One is the students are asked to rate themselves, their wellness and progress towards their goals. So you'll see it's a scale of 1 to 5. Excellence, doing great. 5 is in crisis. And then the clinicians do the same. They rate the wellness and students' progress that they have seen over the past week or so. Again, using the same scale, the 1 through 5. And then the next slide reports out our wellness ratings throughout the school year. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a significant overall improvement in student rated wellness. If you look at December, there was about a 12% of student rated poor wellness, and that transitioned down to 2% in May, which is a decrease of 80% of negative wellness in our student rated scales. And then the clinician scales follow the same trend throughout the year, that with the blue sections getting bigger, that their progress towards their therapeutic goals have improved. Okay. Then
Great. And then another measure of therapeutic progress, a metric that, of course, is very, very important in the state of Connecticut, as it is across the country, is chronic absenteeism. So back in March, we conducted analysis with the district to really look at rates of chronic absenteeism within ESS students compared to baseline measurements. And the headline here is that students in ESS programming decrease their rates of chronic absenteeism by 30% when comparing their time before entry into ESS versus their time after entry into ESS. And you actually see down at the bottom that 30% is the 71% down to 50%, so a 21 percentage point decrease, but a 30% decrease. And then you can actually see how that actually compares school by school as well, again, with the vast majority of schools showing improvements in rates of chronic absenteeism.
Chairwoman Ledger, I have a quick question.
Yes, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not see your hand. Thank you, Chairman Rigger.
Yeah, so this is super helpful and great work here. The question I have is, how does this compare to other districts that you've used or that you worked with? I'm just trying to get a bit, like, so 30%, like, is that good? Is that bad in terms of the impact that you guys are having? So what I would say is, like, one of the reasons why we decided to partner with you guys is this is exactly, like, at least directionally where we wanted to go. My question that I'm trying to triangulate is this on par with similar districts? Is this better? Is this behind? Right. I'm just trying to put some context around the 30%.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Mr. Rigger. I know you were part of our conversations last year, and I remember some of the data that we share with our national averages. And I believe that was 35% decrease in discipline, about a 42% decrease in absences. And so my headline here would be, this is on par with other districts. And I would say for a first year implementation, this actually exceeds what we would see in many first year implementations. I see Amy nodding, who has worked across multiple districts kind of in Connecticut. And so we are thrilled with the impact here. Anytime we're implementing a program of this scope, there's always kind of a norming period as you're just working to get students into the program. And I think Jen and Aaron could attest that a good part of the first kind of couple of months of the program was just getting the machinery in place to kind of hook up that referral pipeline to identify the right students and to get them enrolled. So if we actually looked at the, when students came into the program, some came in September, many did not come in until November or December. So for us to see this kind of impact, even for students who came in a little bit later in the process, we're really, really excited about that. And I would encourage everybody on the board here to be excited about it as well, especially in this year where there's so many headwinds and so many challenges for districts. I think these are very impressive results.
Yes, I would agree. I think these are very impressive results. But I think everyone can attest my nature or orientation is what more can we do? Again, these are right for a very specific group of kids, which I certainly appreciate, but from where I sit, right, I want this, I want this great work to be applied across the entire school district. So again, not to take away from anything that you guys have done, but I will just my nature, I'm going to keep pushing and asking the question, what else can we do, and how quickly can we do it?
Appreciate that for sure. And we would, we would love to sit down and do some kind of goal setting, I think, with the district. And I do think we should be aiming higher in year 2 of an implementation than we are in year 1 for sure.
And I would tell you, whatever number you had in your head, add 20% to that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your question, Chairman Rigger. I don't see any more hands. And we can continue.
Okay. I'll pass it over to Mike Roseman on our team to take us through the last couple of slides. Mike.
Thanks, everyone. So Amy had talked before about just-in-time interventions and how that happens, these real-time urgent sessions, which are part of the constellation of different interventions. So this slide is really just trying to outline on a daily basis the average number of urgent non-scheduled sessions that our clinicians engage in. And if you add up that total, you're talking about 30 per day. So this is in addition to the regularly scheduled individual therapy and family therapy, but you can see that responding to just-in-time or urgent needs is a core part of the work that our clinicians do on a daily basis. Next slide. We wanted to kind of end with parent feedback. Parent support and feedback has been extremely positive about the program. I'll let you take a second to kind of read through these quotes. I just wanted to highlight one, which is the second one from that 7th grade parent, in light of what we talked about, which is kind of attendance. Thank you so much for all the help you've given my son. You've been so helpful. The school told me that his absences from school went from multiple in the first few months of school to just 1 this month, and he has been completing more work. I think that that's a great testament to sort of the collaboration that we have, and that students are able to attend and then they're able to complete their academics and have an impact, of course, on GPA and kind of academic outcomes. But I'll leave this on the screen for a second so you can kind of read through some of these comments. And then I think I am passing it over for the last slide to Dr. Negron or to Jen. Yep, Dr. Negron.
Yes, I believe that is me. So to kind of share where we're hoping to go with the contract renewal in terms of the scope of work, you've seen the schools that were supported this year, those 6 schools. We're hoping to expand the partnership so that we can include 2 additional middle schools. That would mean that we would be adding 2 additional clinicians, right, to the scope of work. And we will be looking to continue to provide supports to students in the existing schools. So all the data that you saw today, right, continuing with the in-school clinical supports, the family therapy sessions, group therapy, just-in-time support, and then continuing the partnership with the school staff, right, to ensure that all students are meeting with success. This particular contract renewal, funds are identified in ESSER. It does come at a cost of 1.671 would be the amount for 22-23. And I will pause here.
Thank you so much. I do have a question, and this is very impressive. The question I have is, do you have the numbers or the breakdown of, with regards to these clinicians, How many clinicians are Black clinicians? How many Latin? I don't say Latin, Hispanic, to reflect the population that is being served?
Absolutely. This was an important part of our discussion together last year. So 80% of our team is Black or Latinx. And we have, Amy, keep me honest here, 20-30% that are bilingual. So those were two pieces that we heard were very important last year. And we wanted to make sure that we had a team that reflected the racial and ethnic diversity within the district.
Thank you. And I understand that you said that 80% are Black and Latinx or Latinx, but if you can give me like numbers, like if it's 30% Black or 50% Black or 20%, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
That would be helpful.
Amy, 50% Black, 30% Latinx, and 2% other?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And now, are we all set with this portion? So I don't see any more questions.
I have a question. It was in the chat. Just curious, how does this funding request compare to last year? It sounds like we're bringing on some additional resources. So I do think it would be helpful, if I heard correctly, at least, I think it would be helpful just to maybe talk about that and if there's any increase in funding, where is that, right? Where's that delta going to?
There is a slight increase because it's to cover the cost of the additional 2 clinicians that we would need to then be able to add the 2 middle schools. Duncan, I cannot remember exactly the amount of the increase.
It's an increase of roughly $150,000. We removed a portion of the scope of work, some of the additional supplemental professional development. So that
Correct.
brought the cost down a little bit. And then that was offset by the addition of the new programming at the new schools. So I believe in total, it's an increase of roughly 10%.
And 10% is serving how many more kids?
10%. Each of those clinicians will serve, a caseload for a tier 3 clinician. Mr. Rigger would be 10 at any given point in time. Students do enter and exit the program. So each of those clinicians will probably service, I would say on average, 15 students over the course of the year. So 30 additional students in total.
Yeah, and that is, what is that, 10%, 5% of the total students that you're serving now? So basically, right, if you're telling me, hey, 10% budget increase and you're serving, I don't know, 20%, 30%, like that's an easy conversation. But if you're telling me it's a 10% increase and you're only servicing 0.5%, that's a much different conversation as well.
It's a depending on how long students stay in the program, it would be at least a 10% increase in capacity, likely more of a 15% increase in capacity as compared to the 10% increase in cost.
Okay. I think, I'm not sure how this goes to the finance committee, but Ms. Ledger, I guess and Dr. Negron, in your report out, I think that's something that is worth calling out, right? Like, hey, yes, this is a 10% increase in funding, but we're serving 15, 20% more kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can easily break it down on a cost per seat, a cost per student basis. That might be an easy way to communicate it. We'd be happy to do that.
I think that makes sense.
Duncan, if you can please share that with me so then I can make sure that it gets to the hands of the board.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I hope that makes sense. Does that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And now let's see, Christina, can we please have the agenda up again? Thank you so much. And now we are going to address contract continuation approval, Achievement Network. Oh, we did ANET.
Thank you. And again, just want to remind everybody that I do have our partner with us this evening, Tiffany Alvarez-Smith. And Tiffany, thank you for being patient. And I can see your sleeping baby there with you. Want to reiterate again that this is a contract that is supporting not only the Office of Academics, but it's also supporting the Office of School Leadership. And I will break that down a little bit more so that you can understand how. So through this contract, Christina, if we get to the next slide, just taking a minute here to make sure that you understand the scope of services that is offered by ANET, discuss the school outcomes and successes from the engagement with ANET so far, and then review the proposed scope of work for the 22-23 academic year. So in the next slide, just want to remind the members of the team about ANET and who they are. I know Christina mentioned her internet is being a little unstable. But as we get there, let me just voice over.
Yet?
No, it didn't.
I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
there we go.
Oh, there
So,
you go. I have to laugh now, sorry.
Thank you. So again, ANET works with district and school leaders. Their work is all about strengthening school-wide practices and culture of using learning standards and academic achievement data to produce student results. They support schools to create conditions for teacher, leaders, and student success through various approaches to school improvement. And ANET and its team of experts have decades of collective experience supporting equitable instruction, implementing anti-racist policy and practices, and delivering culturally responsive training. So they are well known in the field of education. Next, I want to highlight the scope of work as it related to what we did this year. So in terms of at the systems level, with the math curriculum team, ANET worked with the math department to evaluate the quality and the alignment of several math instructional materials to select new materials for 2022-23. They also began developing a math curriculum implementation plan, right? Because if we're going to adapt new curriculum, we want to make sure that there's a very thoughtful plan on how we're going to implement to make sure that everybody is fully supported to be able to do so with fidelity. With the ELA curriculum team, they review the alignment and the quality of the ELA instructional materials, and they supported the alignment of current materials to bring those closer to the literary shifts and the standards. And they also collaborated with the ELA and math content directors to facilitate 15 professional learning sessions to instructional coaches that were aligned to the district priorities. How that translated to the schools is that they supported the development of teaching and learning cycles that again were grounded on standards, data, and best practices. They began coaching all 39 school leaders. They strengthened the understanding of the shifts that are called for by the standards and the core actions, as well as best practices for planning and instructional leadership. They led professional learning sessions about instructional and leadership practices with the principal and assistant principals in February, March, and April. And they also supported school leaders with the implementation of the district instructional vision and their school-specific instructional practices. They participate in our instructional vision learning walks. They identify existing structures that can be used to strengthen the planning and the instruction. And they plan and facilitate effective data meetings. In the next slide, also want to highlight a little bit of the work that they did with our coaches. And again, I want to remind you, right, that we often use our coaches to be able then to turnkey all of that as we're working directly with our teachers. So ANET helped us to develop instructional coach capacity by facilitating learning about effective facilitation of PLCs. 98% of the coaches, when they were surveyed, indicated that their skills had improved as a result of that learning. ANET also provided professional learning about the use of standards and data in ELA instruction. And again, based on the survey, 100% of the coaches indicated that their skills improved and that the learning led to a positive impact for students. ELA coaches also reported an average satisfaction of 4.9 out of a scale of 5. And the ANET coaches also provided professional learning about effective math instruction. And on a scale of 10, the average survey rating was 9.3 for satisfaction. In the next slide, we also have here some of the work that is done at the systems level and also the school partnership. And this is actually a recap of what I had already mentioned. So I don't know why we had that slide, but just in case, there it is again. And on the next slide,
sorry, I hope I have the right presentation. That was the last.
That was it?
Slide I had.
Thought I had another one.
Yes.
I thought I had another one, but I did invite Tiffany Alvarez-Smith to join us today, and also Chief Avila is here. Again, to kind of summarize, a small part of that contract is to work directly with the ELA team and the math team around curriculum and curriculum implementation, the work that happens with the coaches, but the work of the scope is about the coaching that goes directly to our school leaders. And I want to open it up at this point for Chief Avila and also for Tiffany Alvarez-Smith, because I know we recently were trying to collect data from our principals as well as to what they were saying about the partnership.
So good evening, everyone. Just want to give you an overview of the feedback that principals have shared and around their instructional leadership team. So first, let me say that the ANET coaches have been aligned to particular principals, and they met them months ago back in the fall, and have developed relationships with the principals, and they're aligned also with the executive directors as well, so that there's, we are working on coherence so that there's coherence between the instructional vision as well as the work that's happening with the ANET coaches and then what's happening in their schools. So the idea is that the ANET coaches are well versed in how the instructional vision is driving the improvement around instruction and aligned to Common Core standards. And they're building the capacity of our school leaders and the instructional teams at the school. So they work closely with the school leaders, but they also work with the instructional team at each of the schools. And when they do come, they have multiple ways that they work with our school leaders. But when they're on site, they visit classrooms and they're calibrating around the visits, the classroom visits they have aligned to standards, and really helping the principals understand the necessary next steps to increase the instructional practices. And what the principals have said is that, you know, they enjoy the fact that the coaches are experienced and have an expertise and have a strong knowledge base around the standards, and that it allows them to have some focused time to stop the rest of what's happening during the school day and really truly focus on instruction with a critical friend, with someone that is their coach, to help guide them through some meaningful conversations that they have to have as a team, but also that they have to have with teachers in order to accelerate learning for the students. And so I'll stop there and turn it over to Ms. Alvarez, and I'm open for any questions after that.
Thank you, Chief. Building on the school coaching component, we do give a survey twice per year to principals. The first survey was in January. It was shortly after we got started in the fall. And then the second survey we just completed about the end of last week. We give it in May. From January to May, we increased the participation rate, doubled, and also the satisfaction rate nearly doubled, which was great because we've really built momentum in these past few months. There were two big themes in the survey comments. The first theme was being able to start together earlier in the year. So we did get a little bit of a late start starting in the fall. There were many comments that said that principals would like to start the work coaching in the summertime so that they could have their ANET coach with them as they are setting their instructional priorities for the year. And that's something that we've been working on this spring. Dr. Negron and Chief Avila have talked to us about supporting some of the alignment of the SIP plans and things like this. So that was one theme within the comments. Another theme was to continue supporting the coherence across the district, which is something that we've been working on. One way, like I mentioned, is within the being a critical friend and a support in developing those SIP plans. The other, as Dr. Negron mentioned, is really thinking next year and in the year after that, curriculum implementation. This year, you all are embarking on a new math curriculum. It takes a lot to really make that successful. This is really where we have a lot of experience over the years with many different districts. And so that's a place where we can really support the coherence between what the district is doing and what schools are going to do. Also, in supporting you all to select a new ELA curriculum, we've supported this year in helping you to supplement some of your instructional materials so that they can be more aligned to the shifts and the standards. But eventually, you want to be able to have a curriculum that is aligned. And so we'd like to help you to support you in that selection and later implementation with ELA. My colleagues have been working with your math content teams and your ELA content teams in those respects. I'm happy to take questions, as the two chiefs said, and answer anything that you might have.
Thank you so much. I am checking to see if we have any questions. I do not see any questions at this time. Thank you so much for this presentation. Very informative. And the baby is still sleeping.
She had a apparently very active day at daycare. She did not sleep there. So she's sleeping, she's sleeping now, but thank you. She's usually quite spirited on Zoom calls, so you missed that.
No, this is good. This is good. Okay, thank you. So, Christina, can you please share the screen, not the screen, but the agenda again? So this should be it. I
Madam
believe.
Chair, that is correct. I just wanted to make sure that I reference that the contract renewal, again, would be funded under ESSER. And it is the cost would be 1.370. And again, that affords for the work to continue to happen with the Office of Academics in terms of the math department and the ELA department, as well as all 39 schools and principals having an ANET coach.
Thank you so much. Okay. Excellent. So we are, to be respectful of everyone's time, we are about 15 minutes over. So I would like to thank everyone for being here. Thank you for all of the presentations, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.